Very important medical disclaimer. Information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment before undertaking a new health regimen. Hello, and welcome to the Holistic Health Explained podcast. I am your host, Shaunte Fox, and today I am stepping out of my normal interview format and my comfort zone. I always start my interviews by asking my guests to share something not many people know about them. And today I'm actually going to share something not many people know about me. But I'd actually like to elaborate and share my whole story because I've really been feeling called like somebody may be listening and might be inspired and try something different, something they may have never thought of or was suggested by a professional as a way to help heal a chronic physical ailment. So, today I want to actually talk to you about how I believe I cured myself with some spiritual help from suffering with migraines for over probably 25 years. Um, I actually remember the first migraine I ever had. It was at the end of my sixth grade year of school. The end of the year school trip to a water park was that day, but I woke up with an extremely intense headache and could not get up to go to school that day. So ultimately, I missed the trip, and that was the first of many early migraines to come. At that time, I was not getting them really frequently, but as the years went by, they started to get worse and more frequent. By the time I was 18, I had gotten my wisdom teeth removed, started wearing glasses. I was told to stop eating chocolate. I had an MRI done to rule out anything tumor related. Um, Everything that the doctors recommended I do, nothing seemed to be helping. I was also on a migraine medication that made it impossible to function after taking it. All I could do was just sleep it off. And then now going into my 20s, the migraines had developed a very predictable pattern. Once a year, I would get what I would call my migraine season. And for 2 months, pretty much exactly 2 months, I would wake up with a migraine every single day. Um, for 2 months straight, you guys. If you've ever had a migraine, you know how excruciating the pain can be. And now imagine having to endure that pain every single day for 2 months straight. Occasionally, I would skip a day and it would feel like a Christmas day to me because I would be able to have a whole day without a migraine, but that was far and few in between once the season started. Um, but once the season was over, I wouldn't get another migraine until the next year at the same time. And nothing the doctors recommended helped. I was now at that time kind of convinced that it had to do something with the actual season or the barometric pressure in the air or something like that. Why else would I be getting them at the same time of the year? It just felt like it had to do something with the air. I didn't know. I couldn't figure it out. Um, I mean, in a way, I became grateful that if I could just survive those 2 months, I wouldn't have another migraine for another 10 months. But by the time I would get about a month to a month and a half in of this migraine season, I would be exhausted from not getting enough restful sleep due to waking up in the wee hours of the morning with a migraine every single day. It was mentally, and physically exhausting for me during that 2 month time period. I had stopped taking prescribed medication and I was only taking Excedrin migraine. They worked well enough and they wouldn't leave me nauseous or sleepy. So that's what I resorted to every time I would have a migraine. And once the migraine season was over, I would not have another Excedrin or Tylenol for for the rest of the year to try to detox my body from taking one of those every single day. But They actually worked because they would help me to actually wake up because of the caffeine in them, so I was able to function once the migraine was over, and I would be able to get my kids to school and get myself to work and move on with my day. But this is also around the time frame that I would start to really plead with God for an answer, for a solution, for something. After that month and a half of just straight migraine every single day, it would start to wear me down. And I would say things like, I remember like laying in my bed and thinking and saying, talking to God and just saying, oh, whenever I get to heaven, my first question when I pass through those pearly gates is going to be, why? Why did I have these migraines all the time? Like, what was causing these migraines? That was just the only answer I would plead for. Um, I had been tested, scanned many times over the years. No specialist was able to find any physical reason or trigger for the migraines. I also tried alternative treatments like acupuncture, massage therapy, chiropractic adjustments. I even tried Botox at one point, but nothing would stop them from coming every year, and nothing would help them subside when I was actually in one of those seasons. The only thing I could do was just write it out, and I would know, within a certain period of time, they would eventually go away. So now let's kind of fast forward to my vision of Sozo Healing House. You kind of know a little, if you listen to previous episodes, you know about the start of Sozo Healing House. But not long after I opened Sozo and started being introduced to more and more healing modalities, I I had this knowing that Sozo had to exist to actually help me first. Um, Source, God knew that I was not going to do this healing work on my own, and he had to bring the healers to me. So I credit that. That was why my vision of Sozo came to me, was to actually heal myself first. And as a chain reaction, I get to help others heal as well, which is just an added bonus. But naturally, I started partaking in the offerings that our practitioners were offering. I also had become certified in Reiki by this time, so I practiced Reiki on myself regularly. And I opened Sozo Healing House in late spring of 2019. My migraine season usually would start at that time in January and lasted through the end of February. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the season would sometimes change. Some years it would be January, February. Some seasons it would be June and July. And I really don't know the reasoning behind that, but sure enough, shortly after New Year's in 2020, the first migraine came, and they would start off mild and would progressively get more intense and last longer as the month went by. So this is kind of where it gets interesting. So we are in at the beginning of 2020. And so by the time February had rolled around, that was my period where I had had enough. And in my begging and pleading stage with God to take them away or send me a cure or do something, I just couldn't take this anymore. And one of those early mornings, laying there in intense pain and in tears, I just had this epiphany. And I realized at that very moment that every time I was in a migraine season, I was also in a relationship with a man. Um, oh, and I also forgot to mention that my divorce from my kids' dad I had periods of time that I would actually go past a year without getting a migraine. So once we had broken up, because we were in a long-term relationship, so that was a long time of being in a relationship. And then after we separated, there were points of time where I would actually go a whole year without getting a migraine. And then, I would kind of think to myself, oh my gosh, is this it? Did I finally get past it? And are they gone? And then bam, all of a sudden I would get one, and they would come back for another 2 months. And it was just weird. I would never just get one migraine. If I got one, I knew that I was in it for the next 2 months straight. It was just really weird how it worked out that way. So anyway, I realized in that moment of agony that when I was in a romantic relationship is when I would get them. But when I wasn't in a relationship, I would not get them. that's when my mind went in kind of like a reverse mode. Like saw my life kind of rewind as I went through each relationship I had been in over the years, all the way back to that very first migraine I had in the sixth grade, and realized that was right after I had lost a very significant relationship, my mom. At that point, during my sixth grade year, my mom dropped me off at my dad's house and she never returned. And apparently, the adults in my life knew she was alive because nobody ever questioned that. Nobody put out a missing persons report that I remember, but nobody knew exactly where she was or had heard from her. So, as I learned as I got older, she had her own demons that she, had taken over and she had to deal with, and she felt like I was better off without her at that moment in time. And now as an adult, I'm very grateful that she didn't take me down that dark path with her. And I'm um also grateful that she and I were actually able to reconnect when I was in high school. Unfortunately, our connection as a mother and daughter was never really regained. And I ultimately lost her again as a young adult when she passed away before telling any of us that she was actually dying from liver disease. So um, I always say that I actually, lost my mom twice in my lifetime. So let me circle back to my epiphany moment. And what I ultimately realized was that the childhood trauma of losing my mom had never actually been addressed or healed. Every time I was in a relationship with a man, my subconscious was locked in fear of being abandoned again. And that abandonment issue was physically manifesting in the form of migraines. And my relationships were the trigger for the migraines. And thank you, Jesus. That was my moment I had been waiting for. I finally received the answer I had been praying for so many years. But had I not started working on healing myself from the inside through Reiki and other holistic modalities, I really don't think I would have had the capacity to receive that type of an answer. Um, so that same day I had that epiphany. Once the migraine subsided, I immediately grabbed a piece of paper, and I just remember sitting on my bedroom floor and writing a letter to my mom. And the letter was just a letter of release. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just felt this calling that I had to do this, and I just had to get this out. And it was just a letter of release, releasing her, releasing myself. And even though I thought I understood why she did what she did, I had to forgive her out loud, and I guess I just never really did that, and I thought that I was okay about it. I thought because I understood why she did what she did, and I didn't feel like I was harboring any bad feelings about it, but apparently I was. And so I wrote all my feelings down, and I talked to her like I had never talked to her before, and at this time, she had actually already passed away, so I couldn't read it to her in person, but that night I went outside and I lit a little fire in our little small fire pit and read the letter out loud to her, and I threw it in the fire and let it burn, and it was done. And in that moment, I just felt that I had solved a nearly lifelong mystery that I know I cannot take full credit for. But, my spirit guides were right there all along, hearing my cries and waiting for the moment that I would actually listen to their response and have the ability to listen. And I did actually break up with my boyfriend at the time because I obviously had some healing I still needed to do. And I was still, after having this realization of the relationship connection, I was like, I can't be in a relationship right now. I need to cure this. I need to finalize this. And um that was, let's see, that was in February of 2020. So it's been over 5 years and I have not had a migraine since then. I have been in a relationship since then, and I was, yes, very nervous about it. I was a little worried that maybe they would come back, but still no migraines. I'm still migraine free. Um, I haven't shared this much over the years because honestly, I didn't want to jinx myself. I think maybe even part of me didn't fully believe that it was that simple of a fix. And I mean, it wasn't simple. It was very complex, but acknowledging trauma from the past is a very difficult thing to do, and doing the actual work to overcome it can be just as difficult or even more. And for me, it was as simple as acknowledging that what happened and then releasing it from having a hold over me consciously or subconsciously. And like I said, had I not been working on myself on an energetic level and raising my own vibration, I really don't think I would have received that answer. I think I would probably today still be suffering with migraines or just living single for the rest of my life to avoid them once I figured that part out. So that is my something that not many people know about me until now. And I share this with you to shine a light on the possibility that if you are suffering from a chronic ailment that no doctors have been able to find a physical reason for it, maybe it's time to look at what emotional triggers could be keeping you stuck and unwell. Not in 25 years of doctor visits and specialist visits did any one of them ask me about my childhood or if I had any type of past traumas that could possibly be manifesting into a physical pain. So, if this resonates with you and you think it's time to start working maybe on an energetic level to heal yourself, please reach out to one of our great practitioners here at Sozo Healing House. If you're not local, many of them offer remote and virtual services, or find somebody near you who offers these types of things that can help you um, tap into that emotional stuff that might be blocking you or making you physically ill. And I'm happy to chat with you too. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at sozohealinghouse@gmail.com. I'm also happy to help you navigate and find someone to help you start your holistic healing journey. That's why Sozo exists. That's why I'm here today sharing all of this information with you on this podcast. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Holistic Health Explained. If you found this information helpful, please leave us a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. I am your host, Shaunte. Be well, my friends.